Hello, it is Leah, your Tantra expert at Sex Reimagined the Podcast. And we got a message. One of our YouTube viewers, Eric M. Vance, had this to say about our What is Spiritual Sex episode. Such a great conversation between enlightened souls. I've always gotten a lot from stillness, and so it was great to hear the feminine side talk about that as well. Many thanks. Well, many thanks to you, Eric.
Shout out to you, Eric. So in today's episode, I'm Dr. Willow Brown, by the way, your Taoist expert at Sex Reimagined. And today, for those of you who have had parts of your body removed through surgery, there is still so much energy in that area in your body. And you're going to hear all about why you could still have cervical orgasms, even if you have had a hysterectomy, and how possible it is to still stimulate the prostate gland, even if you've had a prostatectomy.
This is such an important episode for those of you who are coupled with someone who's struggling about who they are after surgery when it comes to their sexuality. So it's really important for you to listen to this episode and for your partner too. And if you have someone in your family or friends who are going through this, turn them on to this episode. Yeah. There is hope for more pleasure.
Welcome to the Sex Reimagined Podcast, where sex is shame-free and pleasure-forward. Let's get into the show.
So this is a topic today that we have come across quite a lot in our 40 years of combined experience working in this industry, where especially for women, they've had maybe hysterectomies, partial hysterectomies, or even people have had organs taken out, spleens and gallbladders and kidneys. And we get this question a lot. Well, what if I don't have a cervix anymore? Can I still have a cervical orgasm? Or what if I've had my womb removed? Is it still possible to have a superior orgasm in the womb? And according to Chinese medicine, the answer is yes, because we're really looking at these bodies. We think of our bodies as these solid things that are, fixed, but they're actually just particles moving. There's so much space and vibration and frequency. And so we really are these walking around frequency vibrations. And so when we start to pull our perspective back from the myopic view that we are these things with these organs and all these different systems in our body, which is also true, but we can zoom out and kind of see, well, we are also just energy bodies.
Yeah, where I ran into this all the time in my work was working privately with men who were in different stages of prostate complications. Yeah. So a lot of men who had prostate removal, and they always just amazed me, their ability to not only run energy, but to run pleasure. Now, they also had to adjust that their orgasmic pleasure was going to be different than when they had a prostate. Many of them could no longer get erections, but they could, and even though the prostate was removed, they still had a G-spot, because the prostate gland and the G-spot are actually two different places, although you'll hear some sexologists disagree with that. And that's okay. We'll be happy to talk about the difference between those two zones. But it was so cool to actually be in the presence of someone running that kind of current, because what a lot of people don't understand is that we have so many nerve plexuses down at the bottom of the spine, all throughout the spine. But the tailbone is very sensitive. You've got Kundalini, which is a Eastern Indian concept of life force energy that runs up the spine like the sleeping serpent that can begin to be activated and can roll undulating sensations of energy throughout the whole body. And so when we talk about especially energy orgasms, it's different than your typical ejaculatory orgasm, but can be so powerful. So we really wanted to create this episode because we want to give people hope. If you've had breast cancer and you've had a mastectomy, there's still a way for you to get tremendous amount of pleasure. Like Willow said, if you've had your cervix removed, if you've had a hysterectomy, even if you've had your G-spot removed, which is something that a lot of doctors misunderstood about different female issues, they would just take out everything. And it left a lot of women feeling like they weren't
Unjuicy.
whole.
Yeah,
and
like they didn't have the chi that they used to have, that
yeah,
Shakti energy.
I've worked with women who've had, and I can't remember the medical term, but when you've had your clit removed, as is done in many, in a couple African
Tribal.
communities,
Yeah.
there's still a way for them to have clitoral orgasms. So it's a neat topic to explore, and I think it's one that gives a lot of people hope, and I think it's something that's really misunderstood.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that, when we start to tune into our bodies on a deeper level and we actually feel into what is going on with my kidneys, what is going on with my adrenals, what does the liver do? Where does the liver even live? Most of us don't know. It's under the right rib cage. Where's the spleen and stomach? When we start to pay attention to these organs in our body, and especially our sexual organs, because they actually hold a much greater charge, because they are for creation, they're for creating new life. So they have this really strong, potent energy. We think about the womb, like the womb's primary purpose is to create new life, is to hold space for new life to come through. And that's a very powerful organ system in your body. And that particular womb or organ system is tied into your adrenals and your kidneys, and which is tied into your energy and how you take care of yourself. So really starting to pay attention more closely to the sensations in your body and feeling into your body. Most of us live from our prefrontal cortex, and our forehead is leading the way. But if we can get our hearts to lead the way, if we can get our wombs to lead the way, it's a very different walk through life. It's a very different approach. When one of those organ systems is removed from the body due to complications or surgeries or whatever, there's the energy of that system is still alive inside of you, because it's tied to so many different organ systems. It's tied to so many other parts of you.
Oh, I really liked, I haven't heard that nuanced connection before, that a part of the reason why the energy is still alive is because that energy is still connected to other vital parts of the energy system that are still very much there, like the liver and the kidneys and the adrenals and so on. What I thought was really interesting too is I think that's part of the reason why people get so depressed, right? It's like, well, what does it mean when I no longer have a womb? If that is like the source of creation, right? If that's how I identify myself as a woman, is because of my reproductive organs that assign me with my gender, and that is now, some part of that is now taken away, then that means part of my womanhood is taken away. That means part of my wholeness is taken away. That means I am no longer fully adequate as this so-called gender. And so the way that I really grasped this concept originally is when I was teaching with Charles. Charles was a medic in the Army when he was a young man. And so he would be, and this was during the Vietnam era, so people would they'd come home, they were still getting treatment for their injuries in the war. He was obviously helping doctors out, and they didn't know who was what, so they would call out to him going, "Doctor, doctor, scratch my leg, it itches, it itches," and he would go over there's no leg. But he would do the motions like he was scratching the leg that used to be there. And then the patient would go, "Oh, thank you," like he just got so much relief. And so that's where, the whole phantom limb theory came from, is noticing the phenomenon of amputees still feeling sensation even after the limb was removed. And so the same concept can be translated for when we have internal organs removed, such as a prostate gland or a clitoris or a uterus or a breast. We have these primary erogenous zones. And so when they get removed, how is it that something that is no longer there can still be felt? And that's understandable. It's another reason why a lot of people think energy is woo-woo, when in fact it's been proven over and over and over again that it's actually not woo-woo at all. We are made of electricity. We are energy. And we are just a bunch of molecules that are just zinging, atoms that are moving,
Yeah.
moving, and they look like they're creating form.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, it doesn't have to be a giant stretch from woo-woo to reality when we can see all the science behind it. And so therefore, if a amputee can still feel the sensation of an itch, why shouldn't someone who's had a clickectomy, I think maybe that's the term, how can we still bring sensation to a clitoris or to a foreskin that is no longer there? One thing, and this is also true of prostate removal, is that there's often cells left behind from the surgery. So I think it's pretty rare when they get every single cell connected to that organ. So that also facilitates a little extra energy, that original energy for still some activation. But let's say even if they were able to completely remove the actual tissue, that does not mean you can remove the energy of that said tissue. And so this is really the concept that we are speaking to right now, is if you have had some sort of removal of an erogenous zone in your body, have you started playing with it? Would you be willing to start to caress yourself or have someone else caress you as if it were still there? That's the game we want to play.
Yeah. And I've had patients and clients who've had full prostatectomies, and when they start to, one of the things I like to lead them to do first is to start humming into that organ zone, that place in their body, just so that they can actually get a sensation of vibration into that area, and then start to visualize that.
What does that look like exactly? Like, how do you how do you guide someone into that?
Into the humming?
Yeah, because of the part of me, I see two things happening. Like, one is, okay, I'm in meditation and I visualize that part of the body, and then I imagine I can hum there. But then there's another literal part of me that goes, okay, honey, come over here and start humming on top of this area. Yes, which I think both would probably
hum
be
at my
effective.
asshole, babe.
Yes, that's right. Get very close to my asshole. And because I actually I use the Beecher mantras, and I tell people to hum, to make okay, I'm just going to go here. So let's say we have the asshole. I may not tell them, okay, go put your lips on the asshole and hum. Right. What I usually tell people, whether that's at the tip of a clitoris, tip of a penis, right over the asshole, along the spine where all the chakras are located, also the front of the body where the chakras are located, over a nipple, is you take your palm and you make a cannon out of it. It's like you just bring your hand into
a fist, like a light fist with the circle in the center. Yeah,
and that circle in the center, and then you put your lips right over your palm where the circle is.
It's like playing a didgeridoo.
It's totally like playing a didgeridoo. And I just chanted the Bija mantras, but what I also like to do, and Bija mantras for another class, y'all.
We'll get there.
But we'll get there someday. But what I also like to do is hum my name.
Leo. That's super fun.
Or I could hum their name, right? Or I could be like, Big L, Big L, Big L, Big Lingam. So you could say, you could use any word you want.
You could just have fun. See, that's part of sexual healing and sexual medicine, is just getting silly, getting creative, and having a good time. So
and running
both work.
Those vibrations through the body. Now, why would I not just put my mouth over those areas and hum from that position? The reason is because when I use that fist and I create sort of like that little didgeridoo, that sound vibration gets carried through like a cannon.
Yeah, it echoes a little more.
It has this echo. It has a stronger vibrational tone that comes through it. So it just ends up feeling sexier. And okay, so I totally took us on a sidetrack because I originally asked you, how do you do that?
Well, I haven't done that, but now I'm going to.
Okay.
So in the past with patients, I just have them tune into often I'll have them put their hand there, so that they have a reference for where they're sending their hum. But just how you send the breath and the orgasm to different areas of the body, you send the hum to different areas of the body. And so if we're working with the prostate, then we hum down into that base chakra. And And then it can also, normally I would then have them, if they're working with their spouse or partner or something, then if the spouse or partner is willing to go up in and actually touch where the prostate was, and then both of them can hum together. So very similar to what you're talking about, but without the hand didgeridoo. I love the hand didgeridoo. I'm an avid didgeridoo player myself, so I just...
Are you really?
Actually, I used to do a lot of didgeridoo healing on patients where I would have them lay on the ground and then I would just didge over certain chakras and places in the body.
Having a function here.
Leah's getting so excited about didgeridoo healing over there that she's losing her camera.
Losing my camera. Sorry for that interruption.
So all of those are valid. All of those are valid options. And then after humming, the thing why I like to start with humming, like if they're doing a full meditation to that spot in their body, maybe it's the womb, prostate, could be the gallbladder, could be any organ that's been removed. And start with the humming because it gets you in, first of all, it gets you out of your prefrontal cortex and into your body, right? So then you're actually feeling. And then you're sensing and feeling into that organ. If you're a visual person, then you can visualize it as well. Some people aren't visual. But then after the humming session part is over, which you just kind of find that ending point inside of yourself, then you move into breath and color and sending love and sending light to that area in your body and just seeing anything that feels tight or stagnant or stuck, just seeing those particles dissipate, like clouds dissipate into the sky. They just float off, a piece of the cloud floats off and it disappears into the sky. And so you want to start to go into any pain areas in your body, whether they're emotional pain areas, physical or energetic, and start to see them open up and dissipate so that they become less coagulated and stagnant and more spacious and open. And that's actually, I really believe that, the places that we hold pain in our body, for example, many of us have pain in the shoulders and neck area, right? Or in the lower back area. If we go into that place, instead of trying to get rid of it or get away from it or resist it or fix it somehow, actually go into it and feel into, well, what's the sensation of that pain? Okay, it's tight, it's constricted, it feels sharp, it feels hot, whatever, it feels numb or dull or achy. And then once we have a closer relationship with the sensation, already it's going to start to shift. Then we could maybe find out, well, is there any imagery associated with it? Like I said, if you're visual, you might see shapes or colors or images. If not, then you might have emotions come forward. Is there an emotion associated with it? And you start to dig a little bit deeper. And basically what you're doing is you're massaging out that kink in the neck or that emotional pain that's inside of you. You're actually finding the pearl that's inside of it. So when you start to remove the layers and the coagulated pieces, then you finally get to the center and you're like, oh, I'm afraid of yada, 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 whatever it is that we're afraid of, whatever it is that we are holding as a charge that we won't actualize in our lives.
Like the subconscious belief of like what it means to us that, I don't have this G spot anymore. I don't have this sacred spot anymore. I don't have this clitoris anymore or nipple anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And now, Leah, as someone who has had surgery before, because I personally have never had surgery, so I don't have much of a reference. Yeah, I don't have much of a reference for it other than my patients and clients. But as someone who has had some surgeries, what has been your journey and your experience with that healing process?
So I think the thing that jumps to my mind right away is the sensation of scars, right? So when you've been cut open and then you've been stitched back together, there's the nerves. The nerves have literally been separated, and then you sew everything back together, and then they have to heal, and then they restitch. They try to reconnect where they've been separated. They try to find their way back to the other side. And that has a very, depending on how severe the trauma is to the skin, is dependent, I think, on how long or how weird
the cut is.
The coming back sensation is. So I've had a tummy tuck, and that scar in particular has been the most uncomfortable to heal and to feel sensation around. So numb is a sensation. One of the things that's really interesting is when women start to explore their own G-spot tissue, or there's so many names for the G-spot, I'm just going to keep it simple and call it G-spot. One of the things that they often say first in terms of sensation is, oh, I can't feel anything, I'm numb. But that's actually a feeling. So I think it's really important that people recognize that when you're massaging something like scar tissue, and a lot of women also have a lot of scar tissue when it comes to childbirth, when they've had vaginal tears,
episiotomies and tears.
All sorts of things can create scar tissue. And so people often think, well, I can't feel anything if that's there. My experience is that numb has a lot of really interesting sensation to it, and numbness also changes as it begins to heal and relax and become less tight. So, I mean, 3 years into my recovery of that tummy tuck, the scar continued, without me even touching it, continued to feel weird and strange and not like me. It didn't feel like my body. It felt like this thing had happened and my body didn't know what to do with it. And so there's times when it would be like these really weird, creepy, tingly sensations. Other times just like this weird static numbness that would stretch like an inch below and an inch above the scar line. And it often I had a visceral reaction of feeling creeped out. Like I did not like it. It felt foreign. It didn't feel right, and it didn't feel like me. And so there's like a mental process that you have to go through, that because there's this disassociation of going, that's me, I'm not familiar with this.
Right.
And then all sorts of judgments can arise out of that. So it's just being with the feelings that arise when it comes to change, and just owning it. Yeah, I changed my body. I purposely made this change. I'm not in love with the scar. I wish the scar wasn't here, but frankly, I like my belly a little bit better. So it's like I had to. This was a willing surgery. This wasn't something somebody told me I had to do in order to survive or in order to improve my health. So I also had to reckon that I made a choice to like cut myself, what felt like in half, out of vanity. And then also having to realize that it was a trade-off, because I was trading one problem for another problem. One thing that I thought was unsightly for another thing that's unsightly. So, I mean, just that alone, you can see how complex even something like a volunteer surgery is to like the repercussions of your choices and the grief and the weird sensations that arise, and to keep seeking peace in all of that.
Yeah. Oh God.
That's just one. I mean, I got many more examples.
Yeah. It's such a deep journey. And I mean, what you're speaking to is this, this willingness to transform, and transformation means letting go of what was.
Yeah.
It means releasing a part of you. And then there's going to be grief anytime you're letting go of a part of what was.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you're not still whole or moving toward greater wholeness. Actually means that you're, in my opinion, moving toward greater wholeness, becoming more resilient and more strong through the journey and through the process of releasing a part of you that is no longer serving, whether it's willing or the doctors say you have to, or whatever. It's an opportunity, I feel like, to go through deep transformation. So somewhere along my journey, I read that according to science, the most painful transformation that a being or a creature could ever go through is the butterfly, the metamorphosis from the caterpillar to the butterfly. And the caterpillar goes into, weaves its own cocoon, right? It just puts itself in its own little thing, and then it completely liquefies. And they say that liquefaction,
is that what it does? It liquefies?
turning into it, what is it, a pupus, is the most painful process of all. And then it completely reforms, absolute total transformation from a earthbound creature to an airbound creature to this beautiful butterfly. So I feel like when we are going through these transformations and these surgeries, one of the huge transformation, or birthing, becoming a mother, these huge transformations where complications can definitely take place. It's our opportunity to see that we're going through the process of a butterfly, and it takes the time that it takes, and there's going to be painful moments, there's going to be contractive moments, and there's going to be expansive moments. And
I like that. I like it's a real invitation to go, you went through prostate cancer. You walked to the door of what could have been death. And you had to make some hard choices around what you wanted to do about that. And you preserved your life. And I know that your loved ones are so grateful that you made the choice to follow whatever orders the doctor recommended. And you had traumatic, invasive medical procedures, and here you are. And there's a lot to grapple with, a lot of emotional stuff to come to terms with regarding that, including what feels like the loss of your sexuality, the loss of your virility, because for a lot of men, they are warned making this choice means you'll lose your erections forever. However, my experience has been I've seen a lot of men actually have their erections come back despite what the doctors believe to be impossissible,
and still have plenty
that choice to go, I can choose to be like a butterfly. Maybe not the most masculine metaphor for transformation, but but to make a mindset choice, because it's not just like, okay, I'm going to learn how to fly. It's like, oh, I'm going to collect wisdom from this. I've just overcome an enormous obstacle. Life's going to become more precious to me. And a lot of our choices, when we're faced with something that has forced our surgical hand, that is telling us we have to do this in order to live, you treat life differently. And then although you may at first feel so depressed and have lots of moments of hopelessness, hopefully there's a point where that transformation is truly realized and you can have lots of experiences of grace and gratefulness. And we're not experts in this process in terms of, bringing people, fully therapeutically to this realization of total transformation. Although
yes,
Will
we
and I
are.
do
What are you
have some
talking
experience
about?
in this.
We are experts at that.
Well,
I am.
Well, what I would say
I walk
is,
people through the shadow all the time.
what I can say is, I can't walk you through the shadow. You have to walk yourself.
Yeah,
I'll hold
you
your
do have
hand.
to walk yourself. Yeah,
I'll remind you of what's possible, but this is the journey that you're on. And I have 1,000% belief that you can be the story of a miracle in the smallest and biggest ways possible.
Yeah, because nobody can make that transformation for you.
Yeah.
You can have guides along the way. No.
Yeah, please don't hire me and then tell me and then not do the work, because I'm not interested in people like that. If I will be there 1,000% if you want to take the steps forward. But if you want somebody to prove it to you, we're not your people.
That's
you've got to make a choice to prove that to yourself, and to know that we have so much, what's the word?
Compassion, and we've been through it ourselves.
No, it's the evidence. It's not part of a research study. It is when you have your own experience. What's that term? Anyways, doesn't matter. Moving on. To get to the point is, the stories are told in movies. The stories are on television all the time. It is the hero's journey. It's when we come across an obstacle that seems insurmountable and we make it to the other side, which is the fucking butterfly.
Yeah, baby. You're going to fly. You're going to fly in the end. But you have to stay with the process. I think that the process, everything I see is through terms of Taoism. So it's all seasonal, right? It's expansion, contraction. And you can't rush the winter. You can't rush the fall. You can't rush those seasons where it's like time to let go, time to release, time to clear, and then time to be in the medicine is what I like to call it. It's like the confrontation, confronting what it is that you're most afraid of, and actually sitting with it and getting to know it and listening to it and finding out what's the medicine, what's it there to give you. You cannot rush that process. And we all want to be in spring and summer where we get to the other side and our wings are flapping finally and we're,
and the weather's beautiful.
Yeah, and we're going from flower to flower. Those seasons will come, and the previous seasons of fall and winter, those are the seasons for deep, deep rest, so that when spring and summer come, you have plenty of energy for them. So taking those times to really replenish yourself and rejuvenate your adrenals and your whole body and your being and your spirit, so that when the expansion does come, which it surely will, because that's just nature's way, when it comes around again, you have plenty of energy for it. Now, I wanted to go back to scar tissue, because I think that's, I what you said was, it felt like this part of my body that wasn't me, like it wasn't a part of me. And I've heard that so much from patients who've had removals of wombs and prostates and all these things, and they have these big scars, and they feel like it feels like dead tissue to them. It feels like not alive. Numbness comes to the forefront a lot. And so what I've done a lot as an acupuncturist, just to bring more aliveness. You can certainly do great massage on your own scars, and that's highly recommended after a period of time after they've healed for a bit. But you can also needle through scars, and depending on how deep they are, you can make some really massive changes in that actual scar tissue. Yeah, you start, and not all acupuncturists will needle through scar tissue, but many in California will. So you needle through, and it basically starts to break up the scar tissue. So you go along that scar, put little needles in, and then what you start to see after a couple of those sessions is like sausage links. You can see where you didn't put the needle. And so there's this space of like less scar tissue. And so then you go back through again several sessions where you go into the next
you're doing
sausage,
this to me
into
every
the next
time
little,
we see each.
Yeah.
Because I got some
I'll
scars,
totally needle your scars. I love needling
God.
scars.
Okay. Oh, cool.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference.
So I got questions about this.
So are
you ready for a question?
Okay.
Just to give people a little background, because they may be wondering like why the tummy tuck and all this other stuff. I've just had up and down weight loss, weight gain my entire life. So a lot of loose skin, and I eventually had a stomach surgery, and so I had lots of what felt like worthy reasons to do some cosmetic work. And so I had a tummy tuck and a breast lift with implants. So that first breast surgery, was pretty botched. And because it was a lift, it was one of those lollipop T-scar situations. If you don't know what that is, Google it. And when I had it redone, again, they had to do the same lollipop scar. And what they do is they cut around the nipple, and they actually made my nipples smaller in the first surgery. Unbeknownst to me, I didn't know they were going to be doing that. And so then the second surgery, okay, so now the scars are even more pronounced. My first surgery, my scars weren't lifted. They weren't that big of a deal. But
like
the second
raised,
surgery,
do you mean?
Raised. Yeah. They
Mm-hmm.
what is it called when you've got keloids?
Keloids,
yeah. So I didn't have any keloid situations in my original surgeries. Second time around, I now have keloids just like, I would say, an inch on the outside of one breast, underneath the breast, and then on the other side, maybe 2 inches on the left breast and 1 inch on the other breast. And the scars around the nipples are a little more raised, but I don't know that I would call them keloids. So I would love to see what can be done to minimize those scars, because the one on my left breast really, really bugs me. It's wide, it's unsightly. Although I'm much happier with how the breasts look, facing forward. I'm not happy about what the scars look like from the side. And I didn't know that acupuncture could be a solution for that. What makes me a little nervous, I would also say that the numbing of the nipples. So my nipples were really sensitive before my first surgery, to the point that I didn't like them played with. I didn't like them like really bothered.
Too sensitive. Yeah.
Yeah, too sensitive. Like it would just like irritate me. It would put me in a bad mood when somebody was too nipple focused. And then that became less so after the first surgery because they weren't quite as sensitive, and that seemed like a good thing. Now they're really pretty, they lack a lot of sensitivity, and now I actually crave a lot more nipple stimulation because I actually want to feel them. It's kind of cool actually to go from like way too much to now give it to me.
Yeah, that kind
of makes me feel like my nipple range can now grow, and I can explore things that I've desired that I felt like I couldn't say yes to in the past. But I'm also afraid that once you start putting needles into that scar tissue around the nipple, that it might hurt, it might be uncomfortable. So what can you say regarding my fears around the sensation due to the
Yeah, it depends, with around the nipple, like doing an old scar, like a 5 to 10-year-old scar in the inguinal area is going to be a very different needle gauge and a very different stimulation and sensation of the needle and length of leaving it in and all of these factors as compared to a more fresh surgical scar around the nipple. So we'd use much, much tinier needles, Japanese sarin style needles. And, I also have to assess the scar itself. Like, is it even at a point where needling is good at this point? It's not one of those things where you want to do it right away. You got to wait for the scar to heal over time a little bit before going in to get that scar tissue. But what I've seen is that, people start to get tingling. They start to get more sensation in those areas. And that feeling of the dead, numb skin goes away. And then when they're doing their humming, their meditation, it's like they have greater access to it. So it is really a fun process to walk someone through. Yeah. To see how the transformation takes place inside of them.
And so can this type of treatment help with keloids?
Yeah, keloids, actually, there's something, if it's an actual keloid and not from like a surgical incision, just like some people just get them on their arms or their different limbs in their body.
From an injury, right? Does it always come with an injury, keloids?
Not necessarily. Sometimes they can just appear. There's actually something called ecopolitan, which can remove keloids and nevi moles as well. So I've used that to clear some moles. And so that's it's a solution that they put on top of those raised moles or keloids to actually get them to fall off. They basically scab over and they fall off. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it is very interesting. It's a great ecopolitan. If you haven't heard of it, if you've got those things going on, it's a very non-invasive way to clear them. Much, much easier than cutting, although it does take more time usually. But for let's say for the scars around the nipples, I would do much smaller needles, less length of time, and more frequent treatments. So that's kind of how I would approach that. So it just depends and also a person's actual tissues, like their actual skin and tissues, how thick or thin, or what's going, age matters, all of these things matter. And the same is also true even beyond scars. If you've had a partial hysterectomy or hysterectomy and you want to have more of a relationship with the energy organ that's still there, and you're like, it's been removed, I can't feel it, it's numb, it's gone, I feel cut or whatever. Acupuncture is actually really great to go right into, because there's points that are command points for the womb and command points for the chest and the breast tissue and command points for the prostate gland. So
what
actually
command points?
Well, I'm kind of making that, I'm emphasizing a little bit right now, but there are command points for the head. There's not so much command points for the prostate gland, but there are points that are like exactly related to the prostate gland. So you acupuncturists out there, you know what I'm talking about. But
okay,
but
cool.
basically there's points for the liver, there's points for the spleen, there's points for all the organs in your body. So you're bringing more energy to the ovaries, to the fallopian tubes, to the womb, to these parts of the body when you do acupuncture in them.
So tell me, like, let's say I've had a hysterectomy. I've got a lot of grief over it. I'm feeling a little hormonally in shock as things are changing, and I'm just grappling with it. And I come to you as a patient, and although we don't typically massage the fallopian tubes as an erogenous zone, but like, how would you work with someone who's sort of really emotionally suffering from this perceived loss?
Yeah, so that gets a little bit deeper into the emotional. Acupuncture can treat physical and it can treat emotional as well. And what we're looking, what I've started to bring into my practice more is something called 5-element acupuncture, which is a little bit different than TCM, traditional Chinese medicine acupuncture. And so 5-element really treats at the spirit level. And when we look at people come in, they're like, I've got this pain in my shoulder and my neck and my back and whatever. They're not so connected to their emotional pain, but if we dig a little bit deeper, there's some spirit level emotional stuff going on. So if somebody comes in and they're like, that's what I need help with, the spirit level stuff, then we might go to 5-element acupuncture in that case. And first we want to identify what is their primary element. So each one of us is more of a fire type or a wood type or a metal type or a water type. And so we identify, well, what is the primary type that this person is walking in as manifestation of? And then we want to pay attention to, like, are there any blocks? Is there anything that is spiritually or emotionally blocking them from going all the way into that pain so that they can find that pearl, that gem, that wisdom? And then we might start to open up certain points that are, windows to the sky, window to connect to higher spiritual energy, or these heart opening points to connect to more love, self-love. And when we tonify and bring more energy to those points, then the person kind of gets off the table with more capacity to be with what they're going through, and therefore more ability to transcend
Resource.
it quicker.
Yeah, right. We just launched, Will and I last month launched a course, a masterclass for the male G-spot and the male prostate gland, and given people a full tutorial on how to access and massage these erogenous zones inside of a man. And we addressed, I think, really briefly if you've had prostate removal or if you're going through a medical situation where you're getting treatment for prostate cancer, what are some of your options? And I wanted to address that a little more thoroughly here, because what is true is everything that we teach in that course, you can do to that prostate gland that's no longer there. It's really about whether you're giving this to yourself with your own hands or with a toy, or your partner is doing it, everyone just being aligned that the same way you would massage a prostate is the same way you would massage a prostate that's not there. You just imagine that it's there. You give it, you feel it, and you explore it as if it's all there, and you hold it. And just like I might send energy or maybe even talk to the prostate in my mind if I were to be the one massaging it, it is to just to be that loving presence, just like, wake up, you're alive, and to be able to stroke it in the come hither strokes or in the circle strokes, or to imagine that you're tapping it. And the G spot itself, which is found lower. So if you were or if I were to enter into the anal cavity of a man, which is where you're going to find the prostate gland and the G spot of a man, if you were to go in with your fingers and then curl your fingers around the band of the anal sphincter muscles, your fingertips would feel a little hollow once you've wrapped your fingers around inside those bands of muscles. And that's where you're going to find the G spot. Now, the G spot is an energy spot. You can think of it as the direct access point to the chakra itself, the psyche of the chakra itself. And what is stored in the anal cavity from a chakra standpoint, or what I call the genius zones standpoint, is everything having to do with survival. It's where we feel a sense of security or insecurity. It's where we grapple with life and death. And so if I'm going to go and start to just hold the area of the G-spot, it's important to know that you are right at that portal of survival. It's that connection that we have towards our belief system around survival and security and how we feel a sense of belonging in our bodies and our world. And so I can, with loving touch, hold that zone. I can tap it. I can massage it. I can bring a little bit of weight and pressure to it to expand and relax it, working with the pelvic floor from that angle. And it can be deeply relaxing and deeply arousing. Now, if I were to go look for the prostate gland, I would trace my fingers up that anal wall, feeling for, eventually, as my fingers straighten against that wall, I'm going to feel at my fingertips the prostate gland, which is, in my opinion, it feels like a little lump. It almost feels like a soft nose. If you've ever touched a female G-spot, it's sort of rounded, right? And there's some really, really, really subtle ridges if your touch is very sensitive. Now, with that prostate removed, you might feel a little bit of scar tissue instead. Or you may just not feel much at all. You just have to trust that you're in the right zone. But eventually what you can do is start to stroke from the prostate gland, or what used to be the prostate gland, down to the G-spot in a come hither stroke. And a lot of energy wakes up there and a lot of current. And I would guide the receiver to breathe that sensation, whatever that sensation is, whether that's tightness or just pressure or tingles. Whatever it is, it's being able as the receiver to deeply sense, feel, even if it's numbness, and then give that a breath as if you could pull that sensation all the way up your spine, all the way up to your throat, and then to give that a sound so that whatever the sensation is can be released. If it's something that may be a little uncomfortable or unpleasant, maybe it's just the memory of being invaded there from medical trauma. Or maybe it's just extreme ecstasy. I can tell you that two things happen. One is if you are making the sound because the sensation is either unpleasant or just unexciting, that's going to help move the layers that are blocking the excitement. Because once you start to, lift some of that sensation that is less than what you want, then as the sensations, right, then as the sensations of arousal, as the sensation of tingles, as the yummy sensations start to reveal themselves, and you make the sound of that, then it's the sound and the breath that amplify the yummy feelings. And the sounds of that match the numbness, the tightness, the achy, the burny, the owie. When you make that sound, it actually alleviates the tissue of that feeling. And so it's really vital that you connect to your breath as the receiver, as the person receiving the experience, for more pleasure and for releasing discomfort.
It's a great way to dissipate the tissue, like we were talking about before.
Yeah.
You can go into it and kind of ask it questions and talk to it, and you can do all of that. Or you can get more what Leah is talking about, just in your body and vibrate and sound to the resonant, like to really make a sound that matches the experience of numbness. Like that one of the things I think that inhibits people in doing that is like, oh, I'm going to sound weird. Yeah, you're going to sound weird, and that's okay.
That's okay.
Sound weird.
Like embrace
Give
it.
Give yourself permission.
Let your inner weirdo fly,
Right.
Yeah. Totally. And if you're holding space for this weirdo to be expressed, like be weird with them so it doesn't feel so awkward.
Yeah.
Like make the sounds together.
When we look at nature, we look at like the animals, we look at the whales, we look at the birds, we hear them make these sometimes weird noises. Are they having any hesitation about that? No, that's just, it's nature's way. And we're so inhibited. We don't want to appear. We don't want to not be accepted by the tribe. I mean, that's our ultimate fear, because tribe is survival. Human tribe is survival. And so, if we get cast out, then we're on our own. We have less resources to survive. And so I think that one of the biggest fears is being kicked out, is being cast out.
Right. And so this is all instinct. And so just know that you're not unusual when you don't want to look unusual.
Yeah, it's perfectly normal to not want to be weird.
Yeah. Welcome to permission to be human. and
But be
see what
weird.
you can do to stretch that anyways. Because when you give yourself permission to be your inner oddball, then it gives the rest of us permission to let our inner oddball play too.
And
it is
some of
natural.
the most inspirational people in the world that are just uninhibited with their weirdness. They just let it go. They just let it
They own
fly.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have
But that's
no-
also oftentimes a part of their strategy. Like, I know for me, I really felt like literally a weirdo, quote unquote weirdo, when I was a kid. And I really struggled with it until one day I just made up my mind, fuck it, I'm going to make a weirdo cool. Like,
I'm gonna
I'm
be
just going to
weird.
own it.
Yeah.
And I can't beat it. I'm really realizing I cannot beat this part of myself. So I have to like totally own it. And it became a part of my rebellion.
Yeah.
And then, so a lot of people, it's still survival strategy.
Yeah.
When you can't.
But you're using then your essence, your true
Yeah,
nature. You're actually
that's true.
using it rather than pushing it down and hiding it. And I honestly think that's where a lot of diseases and dysfunctions of the body come from us inhibiting our true essence and our true nature.
True. Yeah. So if you are curious about wanting to know more about the male G-spot and prostate gland and how to arouse it and have more pleasure, and we have that course available for you. You could just go to sexreimagined.com and go into courses and you can pick it up. It's pretty
Yes, the
affordable.
male G-spot and the power of the prostate. It's a
The
fantastic
power
course.
of the prostate, baby.
So good.
With or without a prostate, you can have the power of your
You
prostate.
still got the
anytime you
power.
want.
You still got the
Yeah.
power.
You still got the power. And so, as we sort of segue this into, how, like, let's say foreskin, because it's another place that I've worked with men a lot. When you're circumcised, I believe the numbers are, and be generous with me if I have this slightly wrong, but I believe men, babies, boys, penis owners have 14,000 nerve endings in the foreskin, in the tip of the penis, in the frenulum, the male sort of quote unquote clitoris. When they become circumcised, I believe it is 10,000 nerve endings that are removed. So they get what's left is 4,000 nerve endings.
I don't know if all those numbers are 100% correct, but they sound right to me. And
Okay.
definitely when you've played with an uncircumcised penis as compared to a circumcised penis, you can see the difference in sensitivity.
The sensitivity
Just pulling
is really
back
obvious.
the foreskin very, very slowly. It's like that is so sensitizing to a man who hasn't been circumcised. And it's interesting that we're on this now. I was just talking to my mom, who is a nurse, a baby nurse. So she's been in the room with thousands of circumcisions. And the doctors and medical industry will say, oh, babies can't feel it. They don't feel it. But then most of these babies are screaming bloody murder.
Right.
As
Crazy.
they're being
Babies don't feel it.
circumcised.
Babies may not remember it because they pass out in the middle of their shock.
So here's what we were just talking about, is that babies don't have a very developed nervous system. What she was saying is she has seen babies sleep through circumcisions, no drug induced at all, which I think is amazing.
I've heard that that's actually because they pass out because of pain. That they're not actually sleeping, they're passed out.
They're passing out.
Their nervous system actually takes them away, so they don't feel the pain anymore.
Right. I mean, I'm pretty anti-circumcision myself, but it's interesting to think about, like, why are we doing this? Why have we been doing this for so long? It's cultural. Right. It was religious, but pleasure. It's beyond religious.
But I think even
fear
the religious
pleasure.
thing, and I could be wrong, but like I think the whole part around it being religious is due to sexual shame and fear of sexual deviancy.
Deviancy, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like we're going to take this sensitivity away so that we can control your behavior, so that you're not sexually like obsessed or sexually deviant or overly sexual. I think I could be wrong. I mean, I'm not a scholar in religious rights.
Well, it goes way back. If you've never read The Red Tent, I think they speak to it in that book, and it goes way back. And it's just been carried on for so long. It's to the point where in our culture now where it's just like fathers want their sons to look like
To
them.
look
I mean,
like, yes.
how
And
often
or
are
they're
they
worried
standing
about,
around comparing their penises though? I mean, come on.
well, they're not. I think a lot of it is also like being next to their friends, right?
Yeah,
It's
that's a big
there
one.
is a cultural thing about being
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
So in order to save, parents naturally worry about their kids they're protective of their kids, not wanting them to
Being
feel
cast
embarrassed
out.
or rejected or
Yeah.
being cast out or humiliated and all those things. So I can totally understand why
I can
they would
understand
make
it
that
too.
choice
Yeah.
emotionally from their heart. And I've also had, because we have talked about this in my classes regarding promoting not to circumcise boys, and we've had a number of students get pretty pissed because they are circumcised, and it is culturally important to them, and it is culturally significant religiously for them. And so, having to hold the two. And so I also just want to say to the audience, if you are hearing about this and you're not thrilled about our opinion, but we are pro keep it intact, don't
Non-circumcised.
cut it
Yeah.
off. Understand, and there's just let's zoom out and see the big picture.
Mhm.
And we are in no way, wanting to come off as judgmental or saying that you shouldn't do what you choose and want to do for your family, and you have every reason to make those choices. This isn't trying to come off as judgmental or a desire to shame anyone who has had this experience. My experience is that I've worked with men who, once they understand the gravity of what that baby feels and goes through, that by being circumcised and then finding out that they're now missing 10,000 nerve endings, there has been a feeling of loss, of devastation, even if you didn't remember, don't know, or don't have any memories of having that loss. The idea that you could have more sensitivity than you currently have. Some men have to go through a process with that.
Yeah, I've seen men
this is the whole
deeply
point of this.
grieve. Yeah.
Deeply grieve. But this is the whole point of this episode, is to say, guess what? It may not
The
be there,
energy's
but
still
it's still
there.
there. So
Yes.
I mean, the majority of the men I've sexually been with have all been circumcised, and they don't bum out.
Yeah.
They don't think they're missing anything,
They don't
because
have
in
any
reality,
qualms about
in
it.
a lot
Yeah.
of ways, they're not. And it's true. Willow and I have also been with men who are not circumcised, and it does appear they have more sensitivity. Their response to the tip of their penis is different than the response to the tip of the penises of men that we've been with who are circumcised. So that being said, it's not an either or, it's an and.
Mhm.
And if you want more sensitivity to your circumcised penis, then you can play with it by reconnecting your mind to the energy of your foreskin that you can no longer see, but is still very much there energetically. And so there's some really cool techniques you can use to play with that. One being is I love to take the head of a rose and twirl it over the head of the penis. And then I just twist and twirl and pull up with the rose, as if the energy from the rose can now help them feel more sensation to the
Like
foreskin that is
draw-
not there. So you
drawing that
draw
foreskin
the rose
forward.
up as if you are drawing the foreskin back on.
I love that. That's fantastic. And then, if you're playing with fellatio, then you can use your mouth. You can use,
Yes.
the inside of the lips. You can use the tongue to really, really start to give
rim that foreskin energy.
yes, give that man a sense of like, oh, that's what that subtle skin sensation feels like.
Yeah. Same thing with if someone's had a clitectomy. You can take a rose pillow, you can use a tongue, you can use lips, and you can imagine drawing that skin back on. And then allow your visual sensation to sort of get fuzzy, and imagine that you can start to see the foreskin. Give it a certain color. Use your imagination. Use all of your senses to create an experience for yourself. So, and you will literally feel something change, something different, something tingly can start to occur. I think sometimes, especially, people lean a little too heavy into their visual sense to make proof of something. And we've got other senses that can make proof of something that your eyes cannot. And I think this is just an invitation. This is my personal invitation to, expand your belief system a little bit. Allow yourself and your imagination to create something for you that provides more pleasure, more sensation. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you just open your mind a little bit and stretch it into realms that allow you more?
Yeah. So that's what we're here to do, is to help you expand what's possible for you. Reimagine what might be part of your sexual repertoire moving forward, and also stay with where you're at. There's no rush to get anywhere with any of this. It's just an exploration.
It's just an idea.
We're here to experience. We're in these bodies for a reason. Let's play with them and see what's possible. So with that, my friends,
love, 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 love.
Thanks for tuning in. If the hosts seemed to know what they were talking about, that's because they do. Leah Piper is a tantric sex master coach and a positive psychology facilitator. Dr. Willow Brown is both a Chinese and functional medicine doctor and a Taoist sexology teacher. Don't forget, your comments, likes, subscribes, and suggestions matter. Let's realize this new world together.